automatically cultivated where you keep the sutra. So having a copy of the Diamond Sutra in your house, at least once in a while reading the 4 verses, at least once in a while sharing those 4 verses with people around you, you are already inviting the devas, the asuras, and the Buddhas at your place, making your own place, your own home as the shrine where all the offerings to the Buddha are done. You also make the place a place where all the disciples of the Buddha, they follow. So namaste and good morning everyone. So we are again gathered here on the Sunday morning to study the Diamond Sutra, the Vajrat Chedika Pragya Paramita Sutra, translated by our most lovable Dr. Lim, whom we also call him the Acharya Nagajiva. This sutra is named as Diamond Sutra as it is. The reason being that there has been no attempt at interpretation or any explanation of the sutra by the translator. The original Sanskrit translation was translated from, actually the original was the Sanskrit version, which was translated from from Sanskrit to Chinese by the Tripitaka Acharya Kumarjiv. Then from Chinese to English by our own Dr. Lim, who has translated this version. And this is what we are learning and studying right now. If you see, we have in the last few episodes, almost I think the 5 episodes we had prior to this, in which we studied the Diamond Sutra, and we were trying to learn through an interaction session where I was trying to explain what I understood from it with y'all, and we studied the 5 episodes, almost 10 chapters. And now we are going to study today the 11th and the 12th chapter. So now that we have focused our mind into studying the 2 chapters of the Diamond Sutra, let's quickly go through the revision of the chapters that we had till now. And to start with, we all know the first most important thing, first have I heard, is how the sutras start, the authentic sutras. And we know the whole setting is in the region of Shravasti, that's in North India, at the Jetwana Grove, in the park called the Anantapindika Park, where the Buddha is in assembly with around 1,250 great monks. And we have seen the setting that before meal time, the Bhagwan put on his robe and then he's going to the town to beg for his food. And then when he comes up, he's taking care of himself. He's preparing his seat, washing the bowl and everything. And then he sits down to focus and meditate. We saw that. And then we go to the chapter 2 where we saw Subhuti, one of the elder in the whole group of 1,250 monks. There was Subhuti who had a question that came in his mind, and he asked Buddha the question. The question was very simple, that how can a virtuous man and a virtuous woman, that is the one who practices the Panchashil, achieve the highest state of realization, that's Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, and how should they focus their mind and control their thoughts. And that's exactly what Buddha did, very gladly answering his question. And the whole series of Diamond Sutra talk is around this conversation between Subhuti and the Buddha. And this is a very important sutra that has helped a lot of people around the world for, I think, so more than 2,000 plus years to understand the way the mind works, and how it holds on to concepts and how one needs to let go and have a kind of a detachment cultivated so that he can engage with the world without discrimination. And this kind of engagement with the world without discrimination sets him free. And that is exactly what nirvana is. That's the end of suffering. And then we have seen how one has to practice without attachment. And, he has to also take the vow of saving all beings. So going forward, we realize that the Buddha is getting into conversations about he himself, whether we can see him in any form. And then Subhuti answers that you cannot see the Buddha in any particular form, because nothing that is, Buddha is nothing but a very dynamic thing that is existent everywhere in everything, and hence you cannot see him in any form. Then how faith is cultivated, and how virtuous beings are, whoever is introduced to the Diamond Sutra, we studied how they are basically not because they have served the Buddha for one lifetime, but many, many lifetimes they have been associated with not one Buddha, but many, many thousands of Buddhas. So even having the fortune to hear the words of the Buddha needs your cultivated karma over lifetimes. And just think about, if you are getting a chance to hear and learn or study the Diamond Sutra, that means there has been some karmic connection of virtuous acts or deeds or thoughts that you have done over lifetimes, that you are getting an opportunity today to listen to the words of the Buddha himself through the Diamond Sutra. We also saw that even after the Diamond Sutra we are seeing and we are studying, there is basically no fixed teaching, and this makes it a dynamic thing that you need to study this every day, like a mirror. A mirror does not show you a picture that is there of you some 10 years back. It shows you who you are at that very moment. You can watch an album which shows how you looked, how beautiful you were, and how horrible you were at a particular period of time. But the mirror doesn't do that. It reflects your true image, your true self at that very moment. This is exactly what happens when you read the Diamond Sutra. You know your mental state, what you're thinking and everything, and it lets you see your true self at that very moment. Hence, it is also said that all the Buddhas spring forth from this sutra. That's true, because once you understand that there is nothing to have a fixed idea or concept from this sutra, you realize that's how all the Buddhas actually come forth from this sutra. Then we also saw how form is not form in the previous chapter session that we did, the 9th and the 10th session, which was very interesting, because there was a conversation of Subhuti, where Buddha is asking Subhuti about the different things, about the Strotopana. He's talking about the Shakradagamin, he's talking about the Anagmin, and he's also talking about the Arat. He also manages to get Subhuti to question whether he is an Arhat, and Subhuti says, even though you call me the most proficient one in the practice of Arana Samadhi, and you also tell me that I am the one who is achieved the state of Arhat, free from desire. Technically, Subhuti agrees that he doesn't feel like that, because there is nothing, no stage like that he has achieved, and that basically keeps him into the state of he enjoying his practice. Then we also saw the adornment of the Pure Land, where Buddha is questioning Subhuti that do bodhisattvas adorn the Pure Land of Buddhas? And Subhuti was very clear in explaining that that is not possible, that they adorn. It's only for the reason of Buddha saying that they adorn, we consider that they adorn the land of Pure Land. Only it's called adorn, means it's only for namesake. Technically, there is no one person particularly adorning a land. So this is very, very clear that the whole conversation is for us to help understand that when the mind uses analogies and comparisons for understanding things, we don't hold on to the comparisons or analogies of those things. Okay, so moving forward, let's go to the main two chapters that we're going to study today, the chapter 11th and the chapter 12th. And the chapter 11th begins with the title that has been given here is Merit of Teaching the Sutra. Now, Subhuti, if each grain of sand in the Ganges river represented a Ganges river, would the total of grains of sand in all those Ganges river be great? Remember, previously, just in the chapter 10th, the adornment of Pure Land, Subhuti was asked the question by Buddha, if a person is with with a body as large as Mount Sumeru, what do you think? Would the body not be huge? Extremely huge, Bhagwan. Why is this so? Buddha said it is a non-body. Just by name, it is called a huge body. Continuing from there, the Buddha, in the merit of teaching the Sutra chapter, Buddha continues to ask, Subhuti, if each grain of sand in the Ganges river represented a Ganges river, would the total of grains of sand in all those Ganges river be great? You cannot imagine. He's telling that if a grain of sand in the Ganges river, Ganges is a holy river in the north of India, if one grain represented one river, imagine how many grains are there in the Ganges river. Innumerably, you cannot count. If each represented one river and each grain represented another river, how many grains would that? It cannot be counted. So Subhuti says, extremely great Bhagwan, even though the number of all the Ganges rivers are countless, how much more are there grains of sand? So Subhuti is confirming, you are talking about a river Ganges and there are grains in that river of sand which themselves cannot be counted. And now you're telling me that if each grain represented one river, and in their river, if there were grains of sand, if you have to count, it's impossible. So he's very clearly saying how much more are there grains of sand. You cannot even count the number of grains in one river, and even if I had to count them, it is unimaginable and uncountable. How much more if each of these grains represented a river, and in that there were grains? It's not possible. Subhuti, truthfully, if a virtuous man or a virtuous woman filled numerous Trisahasra, Mahasahasra Lokadhatu, equal to the number of sands in all the Ganges rivers with 7 types of jewels, then gave them away as alms or dana, would their merit not be great? Now here he is giving the comparison. It's very important that we see the comparison here, that Subhuti, truthfully, if a virtuous man or a virtuous woman filled numerous Trisahasra Mahasahasra Lokadhatu, equal to the number of sands in all the Ganges rivers, with 7 types of jewels. Now he is giving a comparison. As I gave you a comparison, he said one grain of the Ganges river, the sand, represents one river. Imagine the same thing if you go to compare all the rivers that represented one, the grains, it's immeasurable. Similarly, truthfully, if a virtuous man or a virtuous woman who filled the Trisahasra, Mahasahasra Lokdhatu, means the whole universe, if they filled, equal to the number of grains of sand in the Ganges river with the 7 types of jewels, then gave them away as alms, would their merit be given? Means giving, he's just giving the comparison of how much you fill and how much you can give. Is that merit going to be great? Subhuti says, yes, extremely great, Bhagwan. The Buddha said to Subhuti, if a virtuous man or a virtuous woman can even memorize any 4 lines of verse from this sutra and teach them to others, their merit will be greater than the alms giver. Now he's comparing, first, see, he's using the various ways of comparing. And now after he's compared that even if you fill the Trisahasra, Mahasahasra Lokdhatu with the 7 types of jewels equivalent to the number of grains of sand which you yourself were not able to count, Subhuti, the merits that somebody can get is extremely great, as you said. How much so if a man or a woman who is virtuous can memorize any 4 lines of verse from this sutra and teach them to the others, their merit will be greater than the one who is giving those 7 types of jewels filled with the whole universe filled with that. Means even if you give away everything you have, everything to somebody, you have not given anything. But if you can give somebody four things, four lines of your understanding of the basis on which you have acquired that, you have given him much more. That giving of knowledge is the highest thing. So here, if you can share four verses of this sutra after you memorize it to somebody and give it to them, and that giving would be the measure of that merit is immeasurable. Okay. Now this is very clear that means you cannot equate the giving of something that is immaterial with something that is material. Knowledge is immaterial. Help is immaterial. All these things are immaterial. They are arupa. But when you try to compare these merits with something that you can give, this merit is always going to supersede whatever you give in the material world. So always remember, compassion, love, care, all these things, when we do it for the society without differentiation, without even having the slightest doubt of this being me or mine or theirs and then, we will be able to supersede in terms of merits that we can receive by those who can give away all their wealth and everything that they had to the society. This is what it is. So here it brings back us to the role of teachers. We have to become examples. We have to become teachers through which we are able to teach. Very, very important. Now, then we go to the chapter 12. So going to chapter 12, respect the true teaching. Furthermore, Subhuti, by reciting this sutra, as much as any 4 lines of verse in any place, the place would become like a shrine for humans, devas and asuras, to pay offerings to the Buddha. How much more so if one could completely memorize and recite the sutra? Comparison again. Furthermore, Subhuti, by reciting this sutra as much as any 4 lines of verse in any place. Now he's giving you the value of how if one person teaches, recites or shares this sutra any place, the place will become the shrine for humans. Because to even hear this sutra, you need to have the faculty of hearing to understand it. Without a container, the content cannot remain. You should even have the basic container faculty within you in your mind to even hear this sutra. Many people, they're not even blessed to even hear the name or the verses from the sutra. But if you can teach that, the place where you're teaching or sharing this sutra, that place becomes the shrine for humans, devas, asuras, to pay offerings to the Buddha. That place becomes that. You see, we are in the 6 realms. Okay, we are in the hell, the ghost, the animal realm, then the human realm, and above the human realm, the asura, the deva, and then all these they offer their understanding and their all the virtues to the Buddha. Now the offerings go to the Buddha. Now when we are teaching this sutra or even reciting or sharing this, the place there we are teaching the asuras, the devas, because they are the only ones who will be interested to listen to the sutra. Not the animal, not the ghost, not the hell realm. So here it is very clearly mentioned that all of them will come there. The devas will come, the asuras will come, all of them will come, make that place, the sanctified place, the shrine from where goodness, all the good things start accumulating, and all this good is what we offer to the Buddhas. Subhuti, you would know such a person has accomplished the rarest achievement. Wherever this sutra is kept, the Buddha and his most revered disciples will be present there. Very clear endorsement, saying that Subhuti, you should know such a person who's teaching or sharing this sutra with, in the form of even 4 verses. He converts the place into a shrine for the offerings of the Buddha, where all the devas and asuras will come. Second, he also says that such a person has accomplished the rarest of achievement, because even to be heard, you are already a rare person. Because somebody hearing you, you have acquired that the greatest of skills where you have now sharing the words of the Buddha. And that itself is the rarest of achievement. Wherever the sutra is kept, because definitely when you keep a sutra, that place itself, the Buddha and his most revered disciples will be present there. Because wherever the sutra is kept, there will definitely come the Buddha himself and his disciples to study and share the sutra. So, the sutra, keeping the sutra, sharing the sutra is where you create the shrine and you create the disciples. So, you invite the disciples of the Buddha himself, the Devas, the Asuras, and you convert the whole place into a kind of a pure land. A place where you can experience complete peace, a complete prosperity of state where you can start experiencing that kind of happiness, joy that is unexplainable, which comes among these 7 factors of enlightenment, that is automatically cultivated where you keep the sutra. So, having a copy of the Diamond Sutra in your house, at least once in a while reading the 4 verses, at least once in a while sharing those 4 verses with people around you, you are already inviting the Devas, the Asuras, and the Buddhas at your place, making your own place, your own home as the shrine where all the offerings to the Buddha are done. You also make the place a place where all the disciples of the Buddha, they follow. Now we should understand, when we are talking about a Buddha and his disciples, we are talking about virtuous people, people who follow the Panchashila, they automatically will come. And if people who do not harm, who do not take what does not belong to them, who maintain the harmony of the society, who do not make false claim, who shall not intoxicate, such people, when you are surrounded by such people around in your life, don't you think your life is already turned to become a blessing? Don't you see that you are already on the path of being one of them? You're already on the path of Buddhahood. And you are going to experience that supreme peace and bliss that the Buddha experiences. So these 2 chapters teach us and tell us that the merit of this teaching of this sutra, you cannot equate to any material wealth that you can share with anyone. Only 4 verses, remember, you can share with the world, and the merits you acquire are immeasurable. Second, the respect of the true teaching of the sutra is wherever the sutra is, the Buddha is, the disciples are, the Devas are, the Asuras are, and that same place becomes a sanctified place. It becomes the shrine of the Buddha himself. So that brings us to the end of the sutra, the 2 chapters we studied, the 11th and 12th. We had some lag on the screen, but I think it's okay. The voice is clear, and I think the session has gone well. So we see you next week again. Till then, thank you so much. Bye-bye.